Hi everyone, I'm Sarah.
Hey, and I'm Brent, and we have 4 kids.
And our oldest has Down syndrome. And we're finally going to talk about it today, 8 years later. I guess we'll start off by saying that we had a prenatal diagnosis, and that happened very, very early on in the pregnancy.
Yep.
I was 8 weeks, so it was like at our first doctor's appointment that we inquired about genetic testing.
Yep.
And do you remember like the story on that?
Well, I have 2 other siblings who were pregnant at the same time, and they found out doing genetic testing, and they were like, when are you going to find out?
By find out, we mean the gender. They found out that
Yes.
they were both having girls.
Yes.
And the question was, were we going to all have girls
Yep.
born within like 6 to 8 weeks of each other?
Yep.
So they were like, when are you going to find out? And we were like, well, ask. So we went in, we asked about genetic testing, and we're given something called the Panorama test from a company called Natera. I don't know if that company still exists today, but it was a blood test that I got at 8 or 9 weeks pregnant. And we got the results back a week later at 10 weeks pregnant, and the fetal fraction was like 6%. But anyway, what happened was I was really sick. I have been sick with all my pregnancies and have had like the weirdest cravings. I was telling someone today that I lived off of Pringles and grape soda with one of our kids.
Yeah.
But this go round, I was craving Panda Express. And so I was on my way. It was about 5:30 p.m. So on my way to go get some Panda Express because that's what I needed in that moment. And I get a call from the OB. And it was after 5:30. And she just says to me something about the test didn't come back right. We think your baby has Down syndrome. And I was like, whoa, I am driving. Can I pull over? And as I'm like trying to pull over, I hit a stoplight. And so while I'm at the stoplight, I text him, like, I'm already crying. I have no idea like what's about to happen. And I text him that like, you know, the doctor's on the phone. I don't know what to do, but it's after 5:30. And so I probably should talk to the doctor because, you know, anytime a doctor calls, especially at that hour, like you're just going to take the call. And so I pull into the parking lot, and she starts telling me that there's a high risk, like this isn't, you know, certain, but there's a high risk that the baby has Down syndrome. And she has an appointment for us, not even 36 hours later, with the specialist. Oh, and if things came back positive for the baby having Down syndrome, did we want to terminate? And it was just like, we just went from like a normal pregnancy to like, do you want to terminate your pregnancy? And I was just so caught off guard. But also everything that she was telling me, I was on the phone with her for about an hour. Again, he's not there because at this point, like, you don't know when I'm coming home. I'm trying to process and talk to the doctor. And I cannot like text and cry and process. Like, I just couldn't do it all at the same time. And I was for sure not going to be driving. I was in no place to drive at that point, even though we only lived like 6 minutes away. Like we were on the same road as our home, our apartment. And she told us that like there's like a 50% chance of miscarriage, then there's like a 30% chance of like miscarriage in the second trimester, and then there's a high risk for stillbirth, and basically told me that like we don't know if this baby's going to make it, and you're going to see a specialist to find out how bad this is in, 36 hours. And I still like, we hadn't talked yet.
Yeah. And I'm over there, my head's spinning. I'm like, where are you? Do you need me to come over there? Why is the doctor talking to you alone?
Yeah, I don't recommend. Part of me is like, I should not have answered that call in that moment because it was I was not in a good place. It was not a good time. Yeah, because also you're pregnant, and so your hormones are all over the place. And so I was incredibly vulnerable in that moment. So then we go to the MFM, and that was even more jarring.
They were like, why are you here?
I was like, what do you mean, why are we here? Like, they told us to come here. And they were like, but you're young.
There's no way this baby has Down syndrome.
And we were like, but did you see like the same test results, because on the test results it said 99% sure that the baby has Down syndrome with a 91 positive predictive value. So like we're both software engineers and we're like, the math says this. And this guy's had like 25 plus experience as an OB, as a maternal fetal specialist. So we're like, you're the expert, but the math doesn't match.
Yeah.
So,
and skipping around a little bit, and we tell her OB that, and her OB's like, no, this baby has Down syndrome. I don't know what he's
talking about.
And so we're like, on one hand, the MFN is like, no, this baby doesn't. And our OB is like, yes, they do.
And so we decided to like go ahead and get the amnio, because we're like, we're done with y'all's like arguing. Yeah. And we need to have like a team together to like make sure that we're going to have a good outcome, whatever the outcome is, because like I can't be seeing a high risk doctor because they, if my OB says that I have Down syndrome, the baby has Down syndrome, then we're going to be seeing the high risk doctor throughout the whole pregnancy. But if the high risk doctor doesn't think the baby has Down syndrome, then why are they seeing me in the first place? So we went ahead and went to this amnio appointment, and we could have done a CVS, but decided against that because it felt a little too invasive. So we went for the amnio instead.
And that was an experience.
Yeah. We walk in and there's like a sonographer with the screen, and then there's another screen.
And a big needle.
And the needle's like this big. And then you have the MFM. Yeah. And this is the guy who is like
convinced
that the baby doesn't have Down syndrome. And you're like, oh my God, you're about to stick this massive needle in my body, and you've been gaslighting us the whole time. This is insane. So as he's like doing the procedure, they like stick the needle in. We can see everything. Like this is not like a hidden where only the doctor's supposed to see. No, the doctor has to. The doctor's on one side of you and the sonographer's on the other. So you can see everything. Everybody can see everything.
Well, the doctor has to be able to see and do the needle at the same time. Yeah. To reduce the risk of anything happening to the baby. And so because the doctor can see, you can see.
So we were like watching this needle like approach our baby.
Yeah.
And I was thinking at that moment, like, we have for sure made a mistake. Like, this was absolutely not necessary. But it was absolutely necessary to get this guy who's doing the procedure on board that our baby had Down syndrome. And so, sure enough, the results come back. And we were thinking the results would be Down syndrome or no Down syndrome. And that was it. But that's not what happened.
It can't be simple.
Can't be simple over here. So we get the call, and this time I'm at the office. Again, we're not together. And the baby does have Down syndrome.
Shocker.
But also, it's not trisomy 21. It was an isochromosome or Robertsonian translocation, meaning that it was the baby would have 46 chromosomes, like those of us that are typical. So a typical person has 46 chromosomes. Usually with trisomy 21, you have 47. The baby has 46 chromosomes. But because of this like duplication, rearrangement, whatever it ends up being with isochromosome or Robertsonian translocation, there's a chance that it could be genetic.
What that means is that it could impact all of your pregnancies in either Down syndrome or stillbirth
or miscarriage. So that meant we both had to go get our blood drawn to get genetic testing on us. And the genetic counselor, who was terrible and probably should have gotten fired, also told us that our siblings could be impacted. That is not true. If this has happened to you, if your kiddo has a genetic type of Down syndrome, if it is a Robertsonian translocation on 2121, your siblings cannot be affected. But we did not know that at the time. It was, 8 years ago, and there was nothing online really about Robertsonian Translocation 2121. And so we had to sit down with some of our siblings and have some really hard conversations that all of their pregnancies could have Down syndrome or miscarriage. And it was all false. But like, imagine waiting for these results that took about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And having these like really horribly hard conversations and just like feeling the weight of that. It was horrible.
And then for them to be for nothing.
And then, yeah, for nothing.
It's like we did these hard things for nothing.
So we get the test results back, and neither one of us is a carrier. Mm. But that's not the end of the story.
Yeah.
They told us that just because you're not a carrier doesn't really mean anything, because it could be isolated to just like one area.
Yep. So it could be in an egg, or it could be a sperm, or it could be some, or it could be all.
Yeah. So there was really no way to know if all of our pregnancies were going to be impacted, or if some of them would be. There's just no way to know. So again, it was like, was this test really necessary? Because it didn't change anything, because it still didn't give us any answers.
Yeah.
So we have had kids since, and none of our other children that are alive have Down syndrome. We did have another miscarriage, but we have no idea. Yeah. We got our karyotypes, and we also got these beautiful pictures of our chromosomes. So 10 out of 10, like, if this happens to you, do it and figure out a way to get your other kids tested so that you can have a whole family tree of chromosome mappings, because it's really cool. So once we got the genetic test results back for the baby, for us, our pregnancy moved along. It was complicated, and the end of our pregnancy and the birth will be another video. But for those that are wondering about the prenatal diagnosis, if we would do it again, absolutely.
100%.
It saved our baby's life.
Yep.
And provided so many other benefits. And I think we'll talk about that too in another video. Yep. So stay tuned, subscribe, like, and share with others.
Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.